Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to unpack complex information, cut through the jargon, and give you the vital insights you need to get right up to speed. Today, we're jumping into a world that's usually hidden, full of secrets, and really high stakes. The clandestine history of Israel's targeted assassinations and intelligence operations.
It's a world where, decisions can ripple across the globe and lives are constantly hanging in the balance. We're covering decades of conflict, tough strategic choices, and this continuous dance in the shadows.
Yeah, exactly. And our main guide for this really fascinating, sometimes quite unsettling deep dive is Ronen Bergman's incredibly detailed book, Rise and Kill First: The Secret History of Israel's Targeted Assassinations.
Right. Everything we talk about today, all the details, the specific stories, they come straight from that comprehensive source.
Our mission today, basically to trace how these operations evolved from, believe it or not, surprisingly amateur beginnings.
Oh, almost clumsy sometimes.
To becoming this incredibly sophisticated high-tech machine. We'll look at the key people involved, the ethical tightropes they walked, and the huge impact these secret actions had, both regionally and, well, globally.
So get ready for a shortcut to understanding something that's often kept under wraps.
Okay, let's start right at the beginning, the formative years. It's a story that really starts from desperation, but also this fierce belief in an ideal.
Bergman paints this picture, right? The very first modern Hebrew fighting force starts with just 8 Zionists.
Yeah.
Proud, yeah, but desperate, in Ben Zvi's apartment in Jaffa.
And their core idea was simple, but powerful. Only Jews would defend Jews in Palestine.
And you have to picture how tough it was. These people were incredibly poor, often hungry, literally scraping by on pennies from teaching or manual labor.
Wow.
But that commitment to the Zionist dream, that's what pushed them into this totally new, often violent world.
And those early operations, well, they weren't exactly smooth. Take the assassination of Lord Moyne. Lehi operatives, that's a paramilitary Zionist group, Eliyahu Hakim and Eliyahu Bitzuri in Cairo.
Bergman calls it an amateurish operation. I mean, they tried to escape on slow bicycles. They were caught fast, tried, and hanged.
It really shows how raw things were.
Absolutely. Contrast that, though, with the hunt for Salome. That was the Haganah, the pre-state defense force, trying something new, integrating human intel with electronic stuff.
That's the SHAI bit, right? Tapping phone lines from a shed.
Yeah. From a hidden pit in a tool shed, they tapped Jaffa's phone lines. They actually heard Salome's travel plans on a call.
But the ambush failed.
It failed.
Yeah.
Which just raises the question, right? How do you even learn to do this stuff effectively when mistakes are so costly, potentially fatal?
A critical question, especially given how desperate they were. Bergman suggests it was basically brutal trial and error. Learning on the job.
Exactly. He shows them adapting constantly from mistakes, like the Mistaravim operation in Haifa, operatives posing as workers fixing a pipe.
To plant a bomb?
Yeah, next to a target vehicle. It shows ingenuity, sure, even then, but it was still kind of piecemeal.
And that ingenuity, born from just sheer need, it eventually showed them something crucial. Isolated acts weren't enough. You needed a proper, centralized intelligence system.
Which is where David Ben-Gurion comes in. He had a clear view. Diplomacy, a weak substitute for a strong military and robust intelligence.
He didn't mess around either. December 1949, he pulls the political department out of the Foreign Ministry, puts it directly under his command.
And boom, that's the birth of the Institute for Intelligence and Special Operations, what we now know as the Institute, the Mossad.
And this creates what Bergman calls a shadow realm, Israeli intelligence operating adjacent to yet separate from the country's democratic institutions. Meaning their activities happened without any effective supervision by Israel's parliament, the Knesset, or by any other independent external body.
Wow. So a space where actions that would normally be criminal surveillance, harsh interrogations, even perjury could be justified by state security.
It sets a huge precedent for all the ethical complexities that followed as they grew.
So this centralization leads to these elite specialized units, like Mifrats, the Mossad's very first hit team. They specifically brought in tough, daring guys from groups like Lehi.
And then you have Unit 101, led by Ariel Sharon, who became, a major figure later. Post-1949, their thing was infiltration.
What made them different? Bergman notes they often wore civilian clothes at their secret base, and they were early adopters of new weapons, Carl Gustav submachine guns, and the brand new, secret Israeli Uzi.
And Sharon's leadership.
He was apparently known for precise briefings, but crucially, he didn't just send his men, he led from the front. That famous IDF commander motto, follow me.
That kind of leadership, Bergman says, built incredible loyalty and made them effective. Kind of a template for future units.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, moving into the Cold War. Now, these still relatively new intelligence services face a massive threat: Egypt's missile program.
Bergman calls July 21st, 1962, Israel's worst nightmare. Egypt successfully tests Al-Zafar and Al-Qahar missiles. Nasser boasts they can hit anywhere south of Beirut.
Which basically means anywhere in Israel.
Exactly. And here's the kicker. It was a humiliating failure for Israel's Mossad. They completely missed that Egypt had recruited German scientists for this program.
How did they find out?
They intercepted a document detailing plans for 900 missiles. Suddenly, there's this atmosphere of near panic in the Mossad, and fears these missiles might carry radioactive or chemical warheads.
So a huge intelligence blind spot. How did they react?
Well, with some pretty extreme ideas. Even before this, back in '56, there was Operation Rooster, an ambitious plan to shoot down a plane carrying almost the entire Egyptian military leadership.
Disguised as a technical fault.
Yeah, it failed, but it shows the kind of thinking, the lengths they'd consider.
So, faced with the German scientists, what did Harold do?
His Mossad had extreme reactions, including plans to kidnap or even kill the German scientists. One really audacious one was kidnapping Dr. Otto Johann Ernst Ludwig Krug in Europe, September '62.
How did they pull that off?
Stunned him, gagged him, tied him up, threatened him with poison gas, then secretly flew him to Israel, heavily sedated, on an L plane.
That sounds like something out of a spy movie.
Totally. And their methods kept evolving. Bergman mentions Mossad breaking into Egypt Air offices in Frankfurt in November '62. Used a sophisticated master key to check mail for the missile project.
They got creative with recruiting people, too, right?
Yeah. Using a female operative to influence women. Another guy, Medan, charmed a countess in Dublin, led to wild visits nightclubbing all over Europe, all as cover for gathering intel.
It shows intelligence isn't just about force, it's also about subterfuge and charm sometimes.
Definitely. But these secret wars had a real human cost. Not just for the targets, but for the operatives themselves.
Like the Herbert Cukier's assassination. He was a Latvian war criminal.
Right. They put his body in a suitcase, left a verdict note, but Bergman describes the unprofessional implementation. One operative lost half a finger. Another, Zeev Amit, had horrific nightmares for the rest of his life.
That really brings it home. The psychological toll must have been immense.
Bergman makes that clear. For many, the lines blurred. Were they warriors, criminals? It led to deep personal struggles, often unacknowledged.
And their reach went further, didn't it? Involvement with the Mehdi Ben Barka killing.
Deeply involved. Providing safe houses, cars, fake passports, 2 kinds of poison to the Moroccans, even something to disguise the traces. It shows how entangled they could become in other countries' secret affairs.
As these operations grew, the Mossad's structure got more complex too. Operational divisions like Caesarea and Colossus.
Highly compartmentalized. And interestingly, the field guys hated being called agents. That term was for foreigners betraying their countries. They preferred warriors, lohamim.
That distinction says a lot about how they saw themselves.
Absolutely. The ideal, the desired warrior could function in complete isolation in an enemy country under an entirely different identity, an immense emotional and intellectual burden, as one put it.
What's striking is how pragmatic they were, prioritizing skills over anything else to face threats.
Totally. And speaking of unconventional, Mike Harari started this really ambitious recruitment program inspired by the KGB.
Training orphans.
Yeah, identifying and training orphans from maybe 13 or 14, giving them excellent education, enrichment, a long-term investment for deep cover agents.
And surprisingly, Bergman notes, Mossad was an early pioneer in gender equality.
Right. Actively building teams with members of both sexes, pragmatic again, using talent wherever they found it, regardless of gender roles.
Okay, let's shift now to a new conflict. The rise of Palestinian militancy and Israel's counterterrorism response. Yasser Arafat becomes central here.
18 years old, commanding 200 young men, driven by this passion to fight the Zionist enemy. Even his birthplace, Bergman points out, is disputed, shows the competing narratives.
And after the Sinai campaign, when Egypt stopped infiltrations, Arafat and Abu Jihad decided Fatah needed to operate independently.
A critical move. It inadvertently sets Fatah on its own path.
Fatah quickly ramps up attacks. By '66, hitting Israeli military targets, like a landmine killing 3 soldiers.
Which led to the Samoa raid. Israel demolishes houses in a Palestinian village, trying to deter Arab states, but the Jordanian army gets involved.
And it escalates tension.
Big time. 16 Jordanian soldiers dead, 1 Israeli. Sharp increase in border clashes.
Then comes the Six-Day War. How did Arafat respond?
He masterfully used the Arab states' disgraceful failure, announced Fatah would fight on from within territories Israel had just conquered.
Leading to more terror attacks.
Yes, a damaging wave targeting mostly civilians. Factories, houses, cinemas. This really shifts the threat landscape for Israel.
The Battle of Karamea in '68 seems like a key moment. Israel technically won based on casualties, but
the Palestinians succeeded in holding out against the strongest army in the Middle East. And Arafat escaped dressed as a woman on a motorcycle. Pure theater.
And he spun it brilliantly, right?
Absolutely. Turned a bungled operation into a legend of Palestinian grit. Falsely claimed he wounded Moshe Dayan. Thousands flocked to join the PLO.
Bergman says, after Karamea, no one doubted that there was a Palestinian nation. A huge turning point, cementing Arafat's image.
Even as Israel officially denied Palestinian nationhood.
So, Israel's response to his growing influence? They got desperate. Bergman mentioned some really bizarre plans to kill him.
Like the one based on the Manchurian Candidate, May '68. Hypnotize someone to assassinate him.
Thankfully, that didn't happen. But it shows the pressure they felt.
This period also saw terrible human costs off the battlefield, too. The lynching of Israelis in Ramallah in 2000. Shin Bet, Israel's internal security, marked that as an emblematic attack. Perpetrators hunted in perpetuity, like the Munich attackers.
And the Bus 300 affair in '84. That caused a huge scandal.
4 Palestinian hijackers. Bergman describes them as pretty low-level, a dishwasher, high school students, no major links, just one grenade. They take over a bus.
And the aftermath. Shin Bet torture, allegedly murdering 2 of them after capture.
Exactly. Led to a massive public inquiry. Bergman highlights the military advocate, Amateurish and Finkelstein, sensing something was wrong, despite Shin Bet insisting everything was fine.
One officer involved called it hell.
Yeah. It exposed a culture of lies and torture in the Shin Bet. The inquiry, controversially, ended up allowing moderate physical pressure in interrogations, a really difficult legacy.
Okay, moving into the '70s. The conflict goes global, especially after the Munich massacre in 1972. That must have been a watershed moment.
Devastating. Mossad chief Zamir saw it happen. Terrorists throwing grenades into helicopters, bodies handcuffed, charred, still burning. Horrific.
And Zamir blamed the Germans.
Scathing assessment. Said they did not make even a minimal effort to save lives. This tragedy completely changed Israeli policy.
How so? Golda Meir shifted tactics.
Before Munich, she'd limited targeted killings mostly to target countries, hostile ones. Now, she authorized operations in friendly countries without telling local authorities.
A major escalation. But she was still cautious about collateral damage.
Incredibly, told Harari, the Mossad operations chief, not a hair falls from the head of a French citizen. Not even a single hair. And any kill order, these red pages, needed a select cabinet group's approval.
That policy shift was huge. Before, operating in enemy territory was incredibly risky. Capture meant torture, death. Now they're moving into friendly countries.
Posed totally different risks, right? Political fallout, diplomatic incidents, a new balancing act.
But they had successes. Operation Spring of Youth in Beirut '73, IDF Special Ops and Mossad working together.
Yeah, a complex raid. Bergman includes that detail about Ehud Barak, future prime minister, dressed as a woman on the team, calming a scared Mossad driver by lying, saying there'd be no shooting.
And despite being, as Bergman puts it, unprofessional in parts, it boosted confidence back home.
It did. But then came a major screw-up. The Lillehammer affair, also in '73.
That was the mistaken identity case.
Terrible mistake. Mossad killed a Moroccan waiter, thinking he was Ali Hassan Salameh, a Black September leader. Several operatives arrested, fake passports exposed. The bayonet hit team was disbanded.
A real low point for Israeli intelligence.
Definitely. But then, Entebbe, 1976, the hijacking by Haddad's group, demanding release of 53 freedom fighters.
Including controversial figures like Archbishop Capucci and Kozo Okamoto.
And that amazing detail of the Air France crew refusing to leave the Israeli and Jewish hostages. Real courage.
Puts Prime Minister Rabin in a terrible spot. Give in. Or break Golda Meir's ironclad law and no negotiating with terrorists.
Shin Bet director Ahatuv was firm. No releasing prisoners with blood on their hands. His view, Bergman quotes, was stark. Killers of Jews must be eliminated or die in Israeli prison.
Underline their core principles there.
Yeah. And the rescue plan itself, audacious doesn't even cover it. Hercules planes landing, Land Rovers disguised behind a black Mercedes.
The element of surprise almost lost.
Right. Encountered Ugandan guards. One operative, Netanyahu Yonatan, Benjamin's brother, decided they were a threat, opened fire with a silenced pistol.
And a crucial diplomatic piece was Kenya agreeing to let them refuel in Nairobi on the way back.
Absolutely critical. Bergman suggests it might have failed without that Kenyan agreement.
So Entebbe was a huge success. What happened next? Did they go after Arafat?
Big debate about that. The U.S. was worried they were trying to maybe bridge gaps between Israel and the PLO.
So the question became, when does a terrorist leader become a political figure you can't just assassinate?
Exactly. Shimshon Yitzhaki at Mossad argued Arafat's UN speech made him political. Killing him would cause a huge political imbroglio.
And that view won out.
It did. Arafat's name came off the list. Wadi Haddad, the Entebbe mastermind, went to the top instead. A strategic shift away from purely political figures, at least for a time.
Which brings us to this period of escalation, what Bergman terms the assembly line of assassinations. Killing Salome in '79 is a key example.
Right. Officially, it was closing the Munich account. But Bergman points to a deeper motive suspicion he was a CIA asset.
And the method was new for them.
Yeah, Harari pushed for this. A bomb on a public street, detonated remotely, targeting Salome's moving convoy. High risk, high precision needed.
Required intense prep work, too. That female operative, Rena, posing as an NGO worker with orphans.
Spent 2 months in Beirut just tracking Salome's routines, shows the patience, the deep cover needed.
This era also sees Israel getting deeper into Lebanon, allied with the Christian Phalange militia.
A secret alliance. Mossad base near Beirut. IDF scouting parties. But Bergman highlights the dark side. Contrasts the lavish banquets at Phalange HQ with lime pits where bodies were dissolved.
Raises tough questions about the moral compromises made in these alliances of convenience.
For sure, it was a brutal time. Bergman recounts the horrific Samir Kuntar attack in Naharia, '79. Killed Danny Haran, then smashed his 4-year-old daughter Einat's head against a rock. Just barbaric.
How did Israel respond to that level of violence?
Figures like Mir Dagan came to the fore, head of the South Lebanon region, given huge leeway to intimidate, to deter, hit PLO bases, even homes of suspected collaborators.
Bergman describes Dagan as someone who loved secret warfare, shadows, conspiracies, drawn to the clandestine world.
Yeah. But despite all this targeted action, the First Intifada erupts in '87. Palestinian uprising.
Triggered by frustration, bitterness, and that alleged tank carrier accident.
Right. And Bergman stresses, Israeli intelligence was caught completely flat-footed, a major failure to read the mood on the ground.
And the Bus 300 fallout was still ongoing.
Still casting a shadow. That culture of lies and torture in Shin Bet, the inquiry allowing moderate physical pressure, it had lasting effects on their methods and reputation.
But they also had some major intelligence wins. Operation Golden Fleece in the late '80s, recruiting Adnan Yassin.
He was a PLO official, liked the good life in Paris while his wife got chemo, mockingly called one of the Champs-Élysées revolutionaries.
And Mossad recruited him how? Very clever, wasn't it?
Ingenious. Pretended to be a Palestinian seeking revenge on Arafat, wanting to sell secrets to Iran, not Israel. Played on his greed.
And he turned out to be valuable.
Hugely valuable, enormous amount of high-quality intelligence. PLO, HQ details, structures, weapon transfers, how they fueled the Intifada, even quality gossip like Arafat's marriage.
And the bugging of Abu Mazen's office. That lamp story is classic.
Right. Yassin asks for a brighter lamp for Abu Mazen's failing eyesight. Mossad gives him a bugged chair and a bugged lamp. The lamp was the better bug.
What happened to Yassin?
Eventually caught and executed by the PLO, Arafat apparently visited him in his cell, stunned.
Okay, another major hit, Abbas Musawi, Hezbollah's leader, in '92. But there were problems.
A critical misunderstanding internally. Some saw the final prep, the operational tail, as just training, so no proper risk assessment was done.
And this involved drones, early use.
Only the second time a drone was used for a targeted killing. But the aftermath. Bloody revenge cycle. Hezbollah actually got stronger under Nasrallah.
General Saigi admitted they miscalculated Hezbollah's reaction, didn't foresee Mounier's role. Shows how hard it is to predict the long-term fallout.
Exactly. Tactical success, potential strategic blowback.
Mid-90s now. Peace process efforts, but also terrible violence. Rabin's assassination in '95.
By Yigal Amir. believe Reben betrayed Israel, thought killing him would stop the peace process. A horrific failure for Shin Bet, Bergman emphasizes. They missed Amir's cell, let him get close.
Followed by that wave of suicide bombings in early '96, Dizengoff Center. Pushed Prime Minister Peres back towards targeted killings.
Shows how immediate events could just derail policy, increase public demand for action.
By '97, Bergman says Israeli intelligence was at a low ebb. Failures like the Ansari raid. But the huge public disaster was the Khalid Mashal attempt in Jordan.
Oh, that was messy. Netanyahu orders Operation Cyrus to kill Mashal, the Hamas leader. Mossad director Yatam advised hitting other targets first.
And the poison they chose was incredibly potent.
Levofentanyl, an opioid 100 times stronger than morphine, usually uncontrollable even in surgery. Risky choice.
And the hit itself went wrong.
Completely. A Hamas fighter, Mohammed Abu Saif, trained in combat in Afghanistan, spots them, chases them down, yelling they're Israeli intelligence.
How did it end? The antidote story is unbelievable.
Jordanian intelligence, under Dr. Sami Rababa, catches the operatives, demands the antidote for Mashal in exchange for them. The Mossad guy carrying it, Ben David, has to save the life of the man he tried to kill hours before.
Rababa was furious, wasn't he? Said
Yeah.
medicine should not be recruited to kill people.
A powerful statement. Ultimately, Israel had to release Sheikh Yassin and other prisoners to get their operatives back. Huge blowback, objections internally.
This string of failures, including missing WMD programs in Iran, Syria, Libya, led to a big shakeup in Shin Bet.
Yeah, Ami Aylan came in with a new vision. Make Shin Bet preventative. Use advanced technologies, tech-based sources, instead of relying so heavily on human spies. Aim for a multi-dimensional, real-time intelligence picture.
So intercepting everything, emails, phones, social media, analyzing massive data sets.
That was the goal, developing cutting-edge techniques. Unit 8200, the Signals Intelligence Unit, shifted focus from state enemies to the war against suicide terror.
And the power shifted to these NIOs, non-commissioned intelligence officers.
Basically, yeah, they were deciding which communications to listen to. And Bergman says, unofficially, they were deciding whom Israel killed.
That's a staggering amount of power for relatively junior people.
It is. Shows the efficiency of tech, but also the decentralization of lethal decisions. Raises huge questions about oversight, ethics in this new real-time intel world.
This tech revolution really kicks in during the Second Intifada, right?
Yeah.
And continues today.
Absolutely. Which brings us to Ariel Sharon's return to power in 2001, seen as the strong leader who could stop the violence.
And he already had a relationship with George W. Bush from a '98 visit.
Yeah, Sharon apparently lectured the governor on the security threats facing Israel, influenced Bush's view of Israel's vulnerability.
Sharon's leadership meant more targeted killings.
A lot more. 454 Palestinians killed, thousands wounded during that period, prolonging what Bergman calls a bloody and asymmetrical conflict.
And they changed how they talked about it publicly.
Big shift. IDF issued statements after hits. Shin Bet leaked red page excerpts. Using euphemisms like coincidental damage for civilian deaths, the legality of things like grass widow operations, strikes on gunmen, often killing others nearby, was debatable at best, according to Bergman.
The stats are striking, though. By summer 2002, Shin Bet stopping over 80% of attacks. Sounds successful, but...
But the disturbing trend was that attempted attacks increased. The Palestinians were spawning more and more attackers, fears of endless escalation and a potentially endless war.
That's the core dilemma, isn't it? Tactical wins potentially fueling a bigger strategic problem.
Exactly. So the focus shifted again, targeting Hamas leadership. Operation Picking Anemones, 2003. Killed Ibrahim al-Makadme, Hamas strategist, in his car with helicopter missiles. Also killed a child nearby.
The assumption was leaders wouldn't pay the price themselves.
That seemed to be the thinking. Take out the leadership, disrupt the organization.
But killing political leaders was still debated heavily.
Huge debate. Risk of mass protests being seen as murdering civilians versus the argument that you can't just kill foot soldiers and leave the commanders untouched. Sharon sometimes deferred to Shin Bet chief Dichter on these calls.
We saw that caution with the Mahmoud al-Zahar attempt in 2003, delayed because he was live on BBC.
Right. Shows PR concerns were definitely part of the calculation.
And the killing of Abdelaziz al-Rantisi in 2004. Complexities there, too. Couldn't get a clear shot initially.
He was in his wheelchair, surrounded by a crowd. Air Force commander couldn't fire due to orders to only hit vans. When they did get him, Defense Minister Mofaz made that controversial statement. He was a pediatrician who dealt mainly with the murder of children.
Then there's Arafat's death in 2004, still shrouded in mystery.
Sharon had promised Bush that Israel wouldn't be seen as involved. Arafat dies suddenly from a mysterious intestinal disease. Lab tests later were contradictory polonium traces found by some. Others said natural causes or AIDS. Still debated.
And Bergman mentions Sharon considered leaking that Romanian intel video of Arafat, homosexual relations with bodyguards.
Yeah, considered it as a way to undermine him. A distasteful idea, Bergman calls it, that was ultimately rejected. Shows the lengths they'd consider even character assassination.
Okay, let's look at Syria and Iran. Assad in Syria, surprisingly, respected Israeli intelligence.
Deeply respected, apparently. Tried hard to deceive them, avoided electronic communication for sensitive stuff, believing Mossad was listening in, Mossad being a kind of generic term for Israeli intel.
And the Syrian nuclear reactor in 2007. The U.S. warned against attacking.
CIA Director Hayden warned Assad was a serial miscalculator, might react strongly if attacked without provocation, couldn't stand another embarrassment. Bush decided against a U.S. strike, not an imminent danger.
So Israel felt it had to act alone.
Rely only on itself, as Bergman puts it.
This leads to Mir Dagan really transforming Mossad again.
Big time.
Yeah.
Infiltrating Hezbollah, Suleiman's networks, disrupting weapons, killing activists, assassinating Ahmad Munia, a major Hezbollah figure, with CIA cooperation.
And Dagan's strategy towards Iran's nuclear program.
Stall it. Delay the project as much as possible. Sanctions, computer sabotage like Stuxnet, hoping for economic crisis or regime change inside Iran.
This era also saw that quadrilateral collaboration formalized. CIA, NSA, Mossad, Yemen.
Yeah, deep cooperation, including what Bergman calls a total mutual striptease of sources and methods, unprecedented intelligence sharing.
Which brings us to Mahmoud al-Mabhouh's assassination in Dubai, 2010. He was known for being cautious.
Extremely cautious. The Fox had a highly developed sense of security, even accepted he might die a martyr's death.
And the operation was incredibly complex.
Sophisticated surveillance, elaborate communication network using cell phones routed via Austria to hide links back to Israel, showcased their global reach and technical prowess.
So where does that leave things? Bergman's book concludes with a sense of unease.
Yeah. Despite all the killings, sanctions, sabotage, the Iranian nuclear program, as Defense Minister Barak admitted, reached a point far beyond what I had hoped for.
Leading to plans for Operation Deep Waters, a potential all-out air attack on Iran.
And then you have Mir Dagan's public warning in 2011, already showing signs of the cancer that would kill him.
What did he say? It was powerful, wasn't it?
Incredibly powerful. I do not want a binational state. I do not want an apartheid state. I do not want rule over 3 million Arabs. He called Israel's situation the greatest leadership crisis in the history of the state, urged for leaders who will serve the people and not itself.
A stark warning from someone who lived his entire life inside that secret world.
Yeah, a really poignant endnote to Bergman's chronicle.
And that wraps up our deep dive. We've covered a huge amount of ground, tracing Israel's intelligence history from those really desperate beginnings,
humble, almost amateurish,
to these incredibly complex, high-tech, and often ethically fraught operations. We've seen how these secret actions didn't just shape Israel, but the whole Middle East.
So listening to all this, what really stands out to you? Does understanding these hidden dynamics, these behind-the-scenes choices, change how you view international conflict?
It's a journey through the shadows, really, and Bergman constantly highlights that tension. The drive for national security versus the very real human and moral costs involved.
Yeah. And maybe a final thought to leave you with. Consider how chasing immediate security, even with the best tech and most dedicated people, can sometimes lead to unexpected blowback, that endless escalation fear.
What happens long-term when intelligence work becomes, as Bergman puts it, an assembly line for assassinations? How does a society wrestle with the morality of those choices? Something to think about.